Hello, what's going on, everyone? Thank you so much for joining me here this morning on Narcissism 101, Cracking the Code with me, Paul Wisdom. Good morning. Hope everybody's having a good Thursday morning so far. I hope that you've had a good week. Yeah, we're going to get into it. But before we get into what we're going to talk about today, if you would like a one-on-one session, please email me, paul.wisdom_03 at hotmail.com, or you can send a text message to 647-406-3057. If you want to talk, if you want to vent, if you need some more advice, if you're trying to figure out whether you're dealing with a narcissist or not, please feel free to reach out to me. Just make sure that if you want to call, just send a text to the number. Let me know your name. Let me know that you've been watching some of my videos. And then I'll be more than happy to give you the help that you need. If you just call me, I may just block the number just because, unless there's a message attached to it, because I just don't answer random numbers like that. So yeah, just do me a favor. Just send a text. Let me know it's you, and then I can get you the help that you need. All right? All right, so we're going to get into what we're going to talk about today now. So the title of this video today is From Doing No Wrong to Doing No Right. Yep. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? From doing no wrong to doing no right. So, we know now that the narcissistic experience, the narcissistic relationship goes by very, very fast. It goes fast paced because the narcissists, they know that you have something that they want. Usually that's how it is. They're usually watching you from afar. They see that you have something that they want, and to them it's supply. And supply for the narcissist is that once they get what they want, they don't want it any longer. And so once they feel like they that you don't matter, and the reason why narcissists, they get rid of people so fast, it's because those people that they're dealing with, it's no longer new anymore. That's why we call it new supply, right? Because it's not new anymore, right? And so it's not so much that you did anything wrong. It's not so much that you're a bad person. It's not so much that, you don't do the same things that you did before. It's not so much that, like some commentators say, they got bored with you. Although that's part of it. Yes, it's true. But it's mainly because the narcissist, it's no longer new to them. They're always trying to find new things because they're never satisfied. Remember, I talked about the fact that narcissists, they throw people away because they're never satisfied with them. Yeah, and that also comes from the fact that it's not new to them any longer. They need something new. And anytime that thing's not new anymore, they need something else that's new and something else that's new. That's why if you are married to the narcissist, like I was, you'll understand that when you were married to them, I'm sure, you were doing everything. Everything was great. It was like both of you were enjoying each other's company. Maybe not married. Let's say that you're in a relationship with them and then it became marriage later. Yeah, that's what I'll say. So let's say that you were in a relationship with someone, and they turned out to be a narcissist. And let's say that in the relationship from the beginning, everything was amazing. You guys were spending time together. You guys were saying how much you love each other. You were buying each other gifts. They were buying you gifts, and you felt like you were on top of the world. You thought everything was great. Like this relationship was better than any other relationship you had before, right? Well, the truth is with that is that that's part of the design of how the narcissists shape things. That's part of their illusion. That's part of their game, right? That they play with people. They want things to look good in the beginning because that's when they do the most work, because they see that person that they're going after as a target. So it's like it's like archery, for example. Like, archers, they point the arrow and then they boom, then they knock it where they want to target. They have their eye on the target and then they boom, they target. Same thing with the narcissist. Essentially, they look for a target and they have their eyes set on a target, and that person was you and was me as well. When they have their eyes set on somebody, they're gonna do everything that they can to get that person reeled into their web of lies, their web of manipulation, their web of gaslighting, their web of the smear campaign, their web of blame shifting, their web of triangulation, their web of projection. their web of mirroring, their web of financial abuse, physical abuse, if they're a malignant narcissist, spiritual abuse, emotional abuse. They want to get them in that web, but in order for them to do that, they need to love bomb them to reel them in, to make them feel like they're the best person that they've ever met. Because the narcissist knows that if they do that, then 99% of the time, the person that they're targeting will fall for it. Because they've done it so many times before, because it's part of their game and it's always worked. And so they figure, okay, so if it's worked in the past with the 10 other people I have on the hook, then it will work with this person who's new, who knows nothing about narcissism and doesn't even know that I'm a narcissist or doesn't even know who I am. Right. And so that's why, in the beginning, they love bomb people in. And during the love bombing stage, that's where it feels as though you are doing no wrong. Everything is great. You're cooking for them. You're taking care of them. The food is amazing. And, you guys are going out for dates and, you're opening the car for them if you're a guy. And if you're a girl, you're dressing beautiful for him. And, maybe you have a job. If you're a guy, of course, I hope you have a job and, you're taking care of business and, you're taking care of her. And if you're a woman, probably if you have a job, that's great. But sometimes if that guy is if he's a narcissist, what he's going to do is he's going to say, no, you stay home, you don't have to work, I'll do everything, and everything's amazing. You're staying home, you're cooking, you're cleaning while he's gone, and everything seems great, right? It's like you can do no wrong, right? And that's part of the love bomb. That's part of the trap. It's almost like think about like a rat trap. When you put down a rat trap, that rat, you put it so that you can trap the rat or the rodent or whatever. And then once you trap it, once it gets stuck in that trap, then you take it, safely and you get rid of it. You throw it in the trash or do whatever you're going to do with it, right? You throw it in the trash because now it's dead. It's trapped, right? So that's what narcissists do. They use the love bombing stage as a trap, right? And that's why I've said in my videos before, if a relationship seems like it's going too fast, if it feels as though you guys are going from 0 to 100 real quick, then you know that there's a big, big problem and it's a huge red flag and you need to proceed with caution and be careful. Because chances are that person, they're looking for a meal ticket. They're looking for somebody to mooch off of, to leech off of, right? And they want that person to be you. And you don't want that person to be you. Because like I said before, you don't want to experience gaslighting and stonewalling and being manipulated, being triangulated, being smear campaigned behind your back, even though you didn't even do anything wrong. You don't want to experience any of those things, right? And so in order to avoid that, this is why I create these videos, because I want to show people what to look for before they get into that trap. Right? Because if you get trapped and you don't know what the heck is going on, then you can be in very, very deep trouble. You can be in a lot of trouble, actually. Because like I said in one of my other videos, the longer you stay, the longer you're stuck in the trap, the closer you are to death. You can actually die from people have died in these narcissistic relationships because the demonic presence of the narcissist, it takes such a toll on your health. It takes a toll on your mind. It affects your brain. It affects your energy. Like it can really mess you up. It can make you go mentally insane to the point where you be in a mental psych prison. It can drive you to suicide. I talked about that in one of my most recent videos. So that's why it's really important that you understand what these videos are all about, right? To save people who don't even know that they probably are too deep in, right? And so, in the beginning, it's like you can do no wrong. Everything's amazing. Maybe, and then the thing is, it goes from you doing no wrong to doing no right. It's when the narcissist sees that you are invested. When they see that, okay, they get the sense in their mind that you are not going anywhere, right? Where they see that you've married them, they see that you've had a kid with them, right? And they see that, now you're committed. Once they see that, that's when things start to change. Now, I've said it previously in my other videos that the love bomb stage, it really depends on the narcissist. It really depends on what they are after with you, right? Sometimes the love bomb stage can go for maybe 5 years. Sometimes the love bomb stage can go for maybe a couple months. It also depends on what the narcissist, how many people they have on the hook, right? They usually have a lot, yes, I know. But what I'm saying is that it depends on how old that narcissist is as well. If they're a younger narcissist in their 20s, then that love bomb stage can go probably, maybe 5 or 6 years or so, right? If they're a narcissist and they're in their like 30s, for example, or 40s, and they're starting to become the aging narcissist, then chances are that love bomb stage is probably going to be last maybe a couple months. Because as narcissists get older, as narcissistic people get older, they start to get a little bit more impatient with people, right? They have a low tolerance for nonsense. They start, getting angry a lot easier. Their looks start to deteriorate, and they think that, they can just get whatever they want, right? And so that also depends on the narcissist, how old they are as well, right? And so, when you get involved with somebody who's narcissistic, right? This is why I'm saying you have to be really, really careful. This is why I say take your time. A lot of people disagree with me when I say, 5 years you should get to know someone before you get into anything serious, meaning into like marriage or anything like that, getting engaged and then getting married. I say give it 5 years to really get to know them. And I say that because, 5 years, that's quite a bit of time, right? 2 years, not enough, because a year goes by like that, and then you're already in 2 years, and you've barely even got to see the person when times get hard and all that stuff, right? That's why I say, get to know people, right? Get to see how they are when things get hard, right? When things get hard, one thing I've learned over the past, I think, past 4 years is that people will show their true colors a lot more when hard times come. Right, whether you get a health concern, whether you lose your job, whether you come into a financial challenge, whether something happens where maybe you get into a car accident, maybe you lose your car, maybe something gets stolen from you that's really important to you. Those difficult times will expose who people are, and I can tell you right now, a narcissist, when things get hard, they are the first people to either run away and act as if nothing happened, or they're the first people to point the blame at you, saying that if, let's say that you got sick, they will say, well, you got yourself sick. Why are you sick for? Why are you getting sick? Why is it my problem? And then they start blaming it on you, making it seem like you're the problem, right? So I'm just trying to show you guys that, what you can go from doing no wrong, to doing no right, just like that. And usually in the devaluation stage, that's when you can do no right. And it happens just like that. And you don't even see it coming. And you're trying your best to get back to the love bomb stage where you could do no wrong. But what you don't realize is that didn't exist. That was all fake. The narcissist knew that. The narcissist knew that, you were going to do that you were going to want to get back to that, because they've done this in the past to many other people, and everybody else before they got involved with you, before they dealt with you, was doing the same exact thing, right? So what I'm saying here, guys, is really when you're in a relationship, right? Because a lot of commentators and all that stuff on YouTube, they talk about all the stuff that goes with narcissism and all that stuff, right? But they don't really talk about what to look for, so that you don't get caught up in those stages, right? They don't talk about taking your time, and doing all this stuff. Maybe they do a little bit, but they don't really go in depth to make sure that you take your time with people, right? How long you should take and things like that, right? So, when it comes down to it, with the narcissist, and they do it on purpose, right? I remember when I was married to my ex-wife. I remember when we like before we got married. I was before we got married, everything was great. You know what I mean? We were spending time together. It was like the relationship was amazing. Obviously, there were nobody's perfect. I saw some cracks, and she saw some cracks in me. We weren't perfect. I just thought we were just normal people, right? But then again, now I've learned I come from a narcissistic family. I realized that I was going through the same things within my family too. But as time went along, and everything was great. I was treating her. I was loving her. I was doing everything a man is supposed to do. I was cooking. I was cleaning. I was well, sorry. Well, we were in a relationship. I was taking care of her. I was taking her out and things like that, making her feel loved. You know what I mean? Like a man is supposed to do, right? Holding the door open for her, every time consistently, you know what I'm saying? And, doing all these things, right? But then when it came down to, marriage, and I was cooking, cleaning, paying all the bills, doing everything like that while working outside the home and inside the home, right? When it came down to that, after a while, even though I did everything consistent for like 2 years and things, because we were married for 3.5, when it came on the 2 year mark, it's almost like all of a sudden everything I did was wrong. Right? She was accusing me of, not spending time with her, even though I was the one that booked time off work just to spend with her. And she would go on working and then claiming that, I wasn't, we don't spend enough time together. And then I'd ask her, well, you should book days off or try to get another job where, you don't have to work so many hours so that we can spend time together. And then her response was, that's not helpful. That doesn't help me. And I was like, well, I know I'm doing my part, but then you have to also do your part as well. So what I'm saying here is that, they switched on a dime just like that because she saw that I was so invested in wanting to make it work, and I was taking care of her and, doing all these things. And I was there to hear her, cry and all this stuff when she had problems at work and just in life in general. I was there to hear it, but nobody else wanted to hear it, but I was there, right? Even if she wanted to go out to the theater and go watch theater show or something like that. And, none of her friends or family wanted to go because they just weren't interested. They just didn't care for it. But me, I wasn't interested either. But being a husband, and being a man of God, I said, you know what? I might as well go with her and support her and just be there for her, right? Because even though it's not my thing, I said I want to, support and be there, right? And then when I would go with her, she made it not a good experience for both of us because she was complaining about, the fact that, it's not what I wanted. And she's there yawning, sitting beside me, yawning and tired. And I'm just like, is everything all right? Are you enjoying the show? And then she's like, it's okay. And then, she started ruining the occasion for both of us. So, but in the past, when it came to other shows, everything was great. Right? So what I'm saying here is that, narcissists, what they do is they switch on a dime, right? And everything goes from, you doing no wrong to doing no right on a dime. And then you're trying to figure out what is going on. And you work hard. It actually makes you work harder, right? Because what happens too when you go from doing no right, what the narcissist also starts doing, they start triangulating you. And when I say triangulating, they start talking about, other people, maybe not, romantic, but they start talking about, people in their family, let's say, or let's say a friend or a colleague or something. And they say how much that person, respects them, how much that person, is a good person. And, they hear me when I talk and all this stuff, even though you always hear them when you talk. And then now you're trying to work harder and you're trying to listen to them. And then before you know it, they're not spending time with you anymore. Like they make up excuses not to spend time with you. Maybe they say things like, oh, well, I'm going to stay late tonight at work. Don't wait up for me. Or, oh, I'm going to go spend time with some of my friends in another city and things like that. I'll be gone for this long, but I'll be back soon. And then, you don't hear from them for the whole day. And maybe they don't even show up at home, all night. And then you're up all night wondering, where's my spouse? Where's so-and-so? And you're trying to figure out what is going on. So you give them a call. And then maybe they answer the call and then they say, sorry, I got to go by. And then they click and then now you're sitting there like, what the heck's going on here? You know what I'm saying? So these are some of the things that narcissists do. You know what I'm saying? And I know for a fact that when I was married to my ex-wife, things like that happen as well. I remember when we were supposed to, go see a theater show because she liked to plan them and things like that. Sometimes, not all the time. But she would plan theater show. And then, what would happen is that because we made these plans in advance as she wanted, because she wanted everything months in advance. So I was like, okay. So we planned it in advance. And then the day comes around. And then what happens when the day comes around is she says to me, I'm gonna go do some planting with one of my friends. And I was like, oh, but we have that event happening to tomorrow. And then her response was, yeah, I know. And I was like, okay, so what? So are we going? Are we not going? And then her response was, I don't know. And I was like, but you planned it. And then her response was, why do you have to be so serious all the time? Why can't I just go spend time? And I'm just like, whoa, you're the one that planned it. I didn't plan it. And then I'm just standing there a little bit shocked because I was like, so we're not going. And then she's just like, oh, I can't right now. And then just walks away. And I'm like, okay. So these are some of the things that narcissistic people do, right? They want to confuse you. And she was trying to gaslight, me so that I'm there confused. I wasn't confused at all. I was just startled because I was like, I don't know what the heck is going on here. So see, these are it even happens in families as well, right? Maybe you grew up in a family where your family praised you for everything you did, and after a while, some months or years goes by, and then you're trying to figure out, and then they start saying things like, oh, why aren't you there for us when we need you? And why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? You don't do it the way you used to. And then you're scratching your head saying, but I've been doing it this way for like 20 years. And then they're like, and then you get the silent treatment, and then and then you're the one apologizing, saying, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. And then they say, oh, well, why are you saying sorry and all? See, you can't do anything right. See, you go from doing no wrong, to all of a sudden doing no right. So now you're confused because you're trying to get back to the part where you did everything right. But what you don't realize is that never existed. It was all a fake. It was all a gaslight show to get you hooked on so that you work harder and harder and harder until you can't even work hard anymore, right? Until they don't care about you anymore, right? So these are some of the things that narcissistic people do, right? To get people stuck, to get people pulled in so that it's like a drug. Once you take one dose of it, then it's like it becomes part of you, right? So these are some of the things that narcissists do to people, right? That's how you go from doing no wrong to doing no right. And so it even happens at work. Let's say that you're at work and you're a high performer at work. You're doing your job. Everything is amazing. From the get-go, your boss is telling you how good your work is and how everything you do is great. You're pushing good work. The performance reviews are all good. And then, maybe and you're a consistent worker. Everything's consistent. Everyone talks well about you. Great. And then, a year or so goes by, maybe you get a promotion. And then as soon as you get that promotion, guess what? Like that. Now you're being invalidated. Now you can do no right. Now you're not a good employee. Now you show up to work, early all the time, 10 minutes early. And now they want you to show up 25 minutes early. And then if they don't want you to show up 25 minutes early, now you need to show up an hour early. And then before you know it, now they make up an excuse. They keep a paper trail now, the fact that, you didn't show up early this time. You didn't show up early that time. Now they develop this paper trail behind you. And then what happens now is that now they pull you into the office. Now you're with HR and your manager. And then now you're being let go from your job. And then you can't figure out what the heck is going on. Now you're trying to get back to the part where, you did everything right. And you're asking them, but boss, I just got hired for this promotion. Can I catch a break? And then they're just like, well, we thought about it, and we're going to put you on a performance improvement plan. And then you're sitting there in the office saying, what the heck is in your head? You're saying, what the heck's going on here? I just got this job, and now I'm getting put on a performance improvement plan, even though I've been so consistent in my work. And then now you do that performance improvement plan. And then what happens is, they test you at every angle, and now your colleagues aren't talking to you. Now no one wants to work with you. And then you probably, if you're a woman, you start crying because you're trying to figure out if you're going to lose your job or keep your job. You don't know if you're coming or going. And then, now they have that big paper trail on you, and then at last they fire you, right? Now they're narcissists, they discard you. Yeah, narcissist term, they discard you, right? And then they do the same cycle with somebody else, right? They bring them in, and then that person does a good job, and then it's the same cycle. Now that person goes through you see how it works, guys? You go from doing no wrong to doing no right, just like that in the blink of an eye or overnight. This is what narcissists do. This is by design. This is how they craft their evil, tactics of manipulation, right? This is how they do it, right? It's their bread and butter. It's what they do for a living, right? It's even happens when you're in church. I run through all these examples just to show you guys the different scenarios, right? So let's say that you're in church, and let's say that you're in ministry, like me, because I'm in ministry too. Let's say that you're in ministry. Let's say that everything is great. And this actually happened to me recently. I'll say happened to me recently at a church that I was attending. So, okay, let's say that you're in ministry. Let's say that you do a good job all the time, right? And then let's say that, everything's great. Everybody talks well about you. You do what you're supposed to do. I don't know what ministry, or maybe you teach the Bible to a class. Maybe you're in a women's ministry or a men's ministry, or maybe you're in some sort of ministry. I don't know what it is. You can put anything you want with it. Let's say that you do everything amazing, and the person that is in charge of that ministry, they talk great about you, right? But then out of nowhere, because you're a consistent person, you're a godly person, your values are great, everybody talks great about you, somewhere in that equation there's a narcissist in there, right? And you don't know who it is, right? Maybe it's the very person who's the head of your ministry. I don't know. But then, out of nowhere, just like that, you can do no right. And then all of a sudden, the fact that you're doing great, now all of a sudden, you're not doing anything, you're doing everything wrong, right? Maybe you're not praying with your ministry enough. Maybe you're not saying the right things, even though everybody says you talk well. Maybe all of a sudden, the false allegations are being spread about you. Like, you said this, or you said that, or that person, feels uncomfortable with you. And even though, everybody talks great about you, and what you don't realize is that a narcissistic person has been going behind your back and telling flat out lies about you and creating stories, because narcissists, you have to remember, they're jealous and envious of everybody, right? Especially somebody who has a good heart, especially somebody who, people respect, right? Narcissists want the spotlight on them, but they know that nobody likes them. So what do they have to do? They need to twist the narrative and find a target, set their sights on a target, and then, say to themselves in their head, okay, great. I have this person here in the ministry with me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to see that they do a really good job. And then what I'm going to do is slowly, I'm going to smear campaign them to everybody in the church and everybody in that ministry that they're ministering to. And I'm going to say that they're unhinged, or they have some problems, they have some challenges. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that everybody in the church hears about it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit back. I'm going to watch this person not be respected by anyone, watch people distance themselves from this person, watch people give them the side eye or some stink eye or something like that. And then before you know it, this person's going to feel isolated. Now this person doesn't have anyone to talk to, right? And they're not going to know it's me, because I'm the narcissist. I'm not the narcissist, by the way. I'm just saying what the narcissist would do. Because they're not going to figure out that I'm a narcissist, because I've done this many times before and nobody's ever figured me out. See, this is how narcissists are. This is some of the stuff that they do to people. Let's say I'll use this last example and then the video is over, because it's almost 30 minutes. So let's say that you start a business, right? Let's say you decide to go into business with someone. Maybe it's a friend who you've known for 20 years, 30 years. Maybe it's someone you just met. Maybe it's your spouse. I don't know, whomever it is. Let's say that you went into business with somebody, right? And let's say that, the business is off to a good start. You guys start off well, everything's going great, all the products are selling and you're making a profit, your business is profiting, it's booming, and, people, you're getting great reviews on your business, everything is great, right? And everything's going well. But you didn't know that the person you're working with beside is a narcissist. So what happens now is that, you work hard, you both are working doing an equal share amount of work, and then before you know it, what's happening, is that after you're doing an equal share amount of work, what happens is the narcissists, very slowly, they start putting down their workload so that you pick up most of the workload for them, right? And then they're watching you, seeing how much you're going to do, and they're seeing, okay, he or she's doing a lot of work. Okay, what am I going to do? Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more workload to them, and I'm going to see if they can handle the rest of that. And then what I'm going to do, once I find that they start getting tired, they start getting sloppy, they start getting a little in a pissy mood, a pissy attitude, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just walk away as if it never happened, walk away as if nothing happened. I'm going to disappear. and they won't know where to find me. And then they'll be stuck questioning what they did wrong, right? They're gonna be stuck questioning if they're the problem, right? And this is what I do because I'm a narcissist and I can't take accountability. So then now that person that's in the business with them, now they're scrambling. Now they're getting angry. Now they're calling down the person that they're working with, who's the narcissist. Narcissist isn't answering their phone, or the narcissist answers their phone and says, I'll be right with you. And then 40 minutes later, they answer their phone and say, yeah, what do you need? And then the person says, what's going on? I thought we were supposed to be working together. And then a narcissist says, hold on 1 second. And then they say, can't talk right now, bye. And then you're just like, and then that person's like, wait, what is going on? So see, this is what I'm talking about. You go from doing no wrong to doing no right. Right? So this is why I say, you really need to take your time and be very, very careful. When things are going too well in a relationship with anybody, that should be a huge red flag. Now, I'm not trying to say that relationships aren't supposed to go well. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is if things seem to be going too smoothly, if something seems too good to be true, then 99% of the time, it is too good to be true. You're dealing with somebody who is potentially a scammer trying to scam you, because that's how narcissists deceive people. They make things look very, very good at first, right? All the sex is all good. And by the way, if someone wants to have sex with you in the beginning, that's a huge red flag. That means that they're trying to get their hooks into you. They're trying to, get you reeled in so that you don't know what's going on, right? Be very, very careful if things start to go too good, right? People are being nice to you too early on and you don't even know who these people are. Be very careful. There's always a catch to every single thing under the sun, all right? All right, guys, so thank you so much for joining me here today on Narcissism 101 Cracking the Code with me, Paul Wisdom. Like I said, if you'd like a one-on-one session, please email me, paul.wisdom_03@hotmail.com, or send a text to 647-406-3057. If you want to talk, if you want to vent, if you need some more advice, if you're trying to figure out if you're dealing with the narcissist or not, please feel free to reach out to me. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, share it with somebody who you think could use this. Or if you can relate, if something like this happened to you, please drop comments below so that more and more people can benefit from it and we can push this content so that more and more people can see it. Watch the podcast. I put a link to the podcast I spoke on about my narcissistic experience. Please feel free to watch that podcast. I think it's 2 parts, and then like I said, if you have more questions, please reach out to me. Please call me. Let me know. Like I said, if you want to call, send a text first. Let me know it's you, and then we will talk about getting you that you need. All right? Thank you guys so much for being here today. Hope to see you on the next video. Thank you so much.